great conversation. We, treated, talk about the good stuff, like making more affordable for third world countries or poor countries, more accessible for everybody that maybe don't have too much money in their pocket to access premium content. But in the other side, we tackle some problems, for example, damage to the free internet and how unfortunately KOLs maybe receiving less or even more. So I think that's a great episode we have here. You can check everything on Bloockberg.com. Welcome to the Bloockberg Podcast. I'm your host, Christopher Andrade. Today we are diving to the one of the hottest and most talked about innovations in the crypto and AI space right now, the X402 Protocol. To help us unpack what X402 really is, why it matters, and how it could reshape the future of AI payments and digital infrastructure. I'm joined by the three amazing guests with very different perspectives from across the industry. First, we have David Griffiths. David is a payment infrastructure and card solutions expert with over 30 years of experience. He has played a key role in major payments evolutions from chip and PIN to PayPoint to M-Pesa. He brings a human-centered approach to how technology, AI, and X402 can transform the way value moves globally. David, it's great to have you here on the show.
It's good to be here. Thank you very much.
Nice. Next, join us is David Dobrovitsky, longstanding CEO and CMO in the Web3 and crypto space. David previously founded Glitter Finance, led FunToken.io, one of the biggest iGaming Web3 projects, and today CEO of Wallduck.com, the marketing arm of Cicada Capital. With 16 years of marketing and lead generation experience across 4 sectors, he's also one of the top blockchain voices on LinkedIn. David, is also great to have you here.
My pleasure. Thank you.
Nice. And finally, we have Shivansh Pandey. Shivansh is a developer with the team Signic and AI-driven momentum intelligence, again, for Web3 traders and builders. The platform aggregates signals from X, GitHub, on-chain metrics, Discord activity, and more, using AI to score project reliability and surface insights. Shivansh, welcome to the Bloockberg Podcast as well.
It's nice to be here.
Nice. Gentlemen, it's great to have you all here. Let's jump into the very first question. Feel free who wants to start. It's a very basic question, but for all of us, is something that is, when you're trying to dive deep in this topic, we're kind of stumble across. What is X402 and why the industry is so excited about it?
Shall I jump in, because my perspective is more traditional, and I suspect that these guys are coming at it from a different angle. So I think it's a game changer, essentially because it incorporates payments into the information flow, into the protocol itself, which is something that was always intended, but never solutionized because the technology wasn't there. So it's a game changer in that respect, because it brings everything together into the same space. But where I'm coming from, that doesn't make it a changer of games. So it has an awful lot of potential, but we need to make sure that it isn't everything and it doesn't take us over, and that's essentially where I'm coming from.
Great. Shivansh, what do you think about, I think that would be great to explain in simple terms how X402 works for people like non-technical people like me, and why it's such a buzz around the industry.
So essentially, I would agree with David. Just like he had said, essentially it moves the payment into the protocol itself. Like what happens is, you might have noticed that whenever you have to make payments, you have to go through stripes, you have to go through a lot of intermediate agents or something. which come in between before your payment is confirmed. And essentially what happens is this creates a lot of friction when you have to get your transactions completed. And essentially what X402 does is, instead of having this middleman working for your payments, the movement towards the protocol itself will essentially mean that whenever you are calling an API, you would just have to make the payment and you get your payload or the result in your as you need it. So that's how it works.
Great. And your perspective, David, I mean, the other David, what's your perspective about
Sure. I think that it's a game changer because the internet initially, when you look at it historically, was built outside of its own kind of payment layer. And it didn't have a native payment layer. Email was created as a protocol, as just this giant framework that messaging was kind of integrated into the internet. But that never happened for the financial system. In the financial system, you had to use a variety of either banking apps, which were very cumbersome, or various fintechs, and eventually all the money flow went directly into the banking system. And then later, when after Bitcoin was created, you almost had a dual system for a very long time, where you had some people using crypto and very few people combining crypto and the mainstream financial system, and then everybody else using the mainstream financial system, which at that point was fintech and banking. And what X402 is doing is that they're integrating and creating a native payment layer into the internet, so that basically they're repurposing, the HTTP status code 402 payment. And basically what that's going to do is it's going to allow micropayments to come into the internet. It will be a game changer for content creators, because instead of paying for subscription models or through some sort of banking or fintech or even crypto, you'll be able to basically pay micropayments via stablecoins, most likely. And I say most likely because USDC or Circle, the parent company of USDC, is one of the companies that is the core contributor to this outside of Coinbase. And then you also have Cloudflare as a core contributor, creating its own stablecoin net dollar. And so my expectation, I would say, is that, while X402 is not directly a Web3 protocol, the stablecoin payments will be integrated into it. And then basically that's how they will become native to the internet itself. And so that's why I think it's a game changer, because basically we're going to have the internet integrate truly with the financial system, instead of the financial system just using the internet, basically, for faster communication.
Awesome. So, David Griffiths, in this case, I'm curious, trying to take here your 30 years of payment experience with card as well. What X402 do better compared to the existing ways to make these payments happen? What, in your perspective, using your whole experience around payments, what do you think is maybe is doing better with X402 now compared to the market, the existing market right now?
Yeah. So I think that David hit the nail on the head there. I think that over my last million years in this game, one of the things that we have looked at periodically and ongoing periodically is the challenge around micropayments. And one of the examples that we have always used is the payment, for example, of the example of paying for the Times crossword. So it would, you'd be looking at something in the region of 20p maybe, and there were no mechanisms that would make a 20p payment cost effective for any party. and so you couldn't get into that nitty-gritty of digging down deeper to things like API based payments and payments for information on a like machine to machine basis. So that never existed. Those are the problems that I think that this X402 has the potential to solve, which is again why I made the point early on, and will keep making it, that we should look at this as a horses for courses protocol, mechanism, whatever you want to call it, as a horses for courses, because it will not, whilst it will be brilliant for some things that we've alluded to, it's not necessarily going to be the be all and end all. So we have to be very careful of that. It's definitely a problem solver, but we need to identify and stick to the problems. Stick to the problems that it's good at.
Great. And you, Pandey, do you think this, I would say, is living up for the buzz, for the hype of this protocol? Or you think I'm more aligned with David that, yeah, we have some, degree of, innovation, but we should be more careful about these definitions. What do you think about it?
So I'd say that it is the hype is like very justified. For example, personally, our product Signic, we had a problem. Essentially, we provide analytics across multiple channels, like be it Discord, X, or on-chain transactions. Now, one problem we had suffered was essentially whenever we had to make payments, we had to think in a sort of subscription model manner, where we would say that we'll provide you all the insights in a single subscription. Now, what the problem was that users are not exactly going to utilize all of their subscriptions. They are not going to focus on all the aspects of a project. They might only want to pay for X analytics. They might want to pay only for on-chain transaction analytics. So essentially, with the help of X402, we were trying to integrate it, and successfully, while we were building it today, we were able to have a seamless transaction where you just have to call one API of a single channel, and you'll get your analytics once your payment is completed. So I would say that X402 is very helpful for AI agents, where you don't need to have this sort of middleman or subscription model, where you just have micropayments, like David had mentioned, that it is going to be very helpful for content creators and AI agents, where you don't need to have sort of bulk payment. Instead, you can just have a micropayment for whichever service you are providing.
Great. And you, David, what do you think about all this hype around X402, about innovation? If it's truly innovating, or is something that's good, bringing good stuff to the market, but it's not that big deal? What are your perspective around it?
Well, I mean, I agree with the previous speakers, and I do think that part of the big deal about X402 is that it's going to become much more native for AI agents. And since the internet is basically moving into machine-to-machine transactions, like where a lot of the payments will be, kind of autonomous and automatic and algorithmic, with basically AI agents buying and selling between each other on behalf of people. So that's one of the things that X402 does. On a more practical note, meaning like in the next, let's say, couple of years, it's going to be game-changing for content creators, because for content creators, like, for example, I write articles on Substack, and the only way that I can monetize my Substack is if I connect my Substack to, let's say, Stripe, and then somebody decides to give a donation or support. I mean, it's a very cumbersome way to do it. It would be much easier if people could pay article by article, They only pay for the content that they actually consume. And so right now on the internet, it's almost impossible to find something like that. So I think for content creators, this will be game changing. It will make life a lot easier. It will also expand the internet's kind of ability to become native to AI. So I think all of the hype is very much justified in terms of, kind of what we're hearing. It is pretty much some of the biggest stuff happening.
Amazing. Yeah, that's insight about articles and Substack is something that I didn't think of, and it's great to see where we maybe will be able to pay for articles or stuff like that. It's amazing. Griffiths, another question that I may have is that we kind of trying to find practical examples, just like Dobrovitsky made right now. What of some other practical examples we have around the usage of X402? I saw a very interesting article about also to that aligning that X402 will make able to we have their own Skynet like from the movies. Like is that also true? I mean, what is the other practical examples we have with X402 that we can tell to our viewers?
I don't think really there are any practical examples that are out there in the big wide world that would be big enough to show to someone and say, "Oh, that's where we're at." I think that there are an awful lot of examples that we could call on, and I think David's example about monetizing essentially your articles within a blog, I think that makes perfect sense. And one of the reasons that makes sense, and this could well be a driver for the use cases, if you like, is that if I go out and buy a shirt, I am buying the shirt and I am making this conscious decision around the cost, around whatever else it is that goes with my shirt. Whereas if I am I'm trying to use my words carefully. If I'm paying for an article, I am more concerned about the article and less about the payment. So the payment becomes almost incidental, and possibly, and I don't want to say that David's articles aren't worth very much, but they tend not to be the same sort of price point as an expensive shirt. So the whole approach becomes slightly different. And if you look at that as the payment that sits behind actually just pressing the button to read an article, you can see that the machine to machine payments, the APIs and the information flows, then become sensible, and you could use them as use case examples to people. I know that's not an answer to the question, but unless you or the guys have got something, I really don't know that we're in that mainstream that mainstream position where we can point the finger and say that's what we're talking about. Although I think that they are all valuable use cases.
Amazing, great to see different perspectives. So Pandey, what size are you picking from? Batman, Superman here? What do you see that maybe X402 lack of practical examples right now, or do you see alongside David you have already some examples that can push the technology forward and be massive adopted?
I'd say that there isn't exactly a practical example right now, but what I have observed, like for example, Signet is a part of ecosystem Siren AI, and our ecosystem in our ecosystem there have been many projects that have been trying to integrate X402, and all of them have their own use cases. So essentially, right now, what I would say is that the practical examples are not currently in a good quality where you can just point out that, like what David had mentioned, that this is the exact use case where X402 is coming up. But I'll also say that because of the hype in Web3 community, a lot of builders have noticed that this micropayment system can be very useful for their cause, and each of them have been pushing very heavily for finding a use case which can substantiate their own project. For example, uh, there was this Pay AI facilitator where they had their SDK for Solana payments, and a lot of builders actually joined in with them for building projects that are using their SDK for integrating X402. And there were a lot of statements like for GameFi, they are trying to have a micropayment for each level. For suppose say AI template generators, there have been some micropayment systems. So all of them are playing in their own way. We are still in a stage where X402 is being experimented with, like how we can play around with that protocol. And I think as we are in the early stage of it, we'll eventually come to a point where we will find some practical use cases in the future.
Amazing.
Can I add to this, if you don't mind?
Yeah, I would ask you after your answer also too, because you mentioned Stripe, but it's very unclear who's winning, who's losing, right? We have Stripe, Visa, and also in the payment sector. But feel free, yeah, you want to add something that after that you can answer who really wins. I mean, they continue winning, or this maybe impact their business well.
I think that realistically speaking, when you look at the payment system that a lot of services use, like you take like something like Netflix or Amazon Prime, right? It's all geared towards subscription models, which is wonderful if you're a huge company with unbelievable marketing budgets that can attract tons of content creators and create content and buy licenses for other content and all of that. That's great. Majority of people do not want to subscribe to small content creators online. It's just a fact. Because a small content creator can't create enough content to justify spending $3 per month, even $3 per month for that content. For the simple, you're just one person. So unless you are Elon Musk or somebody unbelievably famous, you're not going to get that level of engagement from people, And for majority of people, for example, that write articles online, if you have like 100 followers that read your articles, you're actually doing pretty well. Can you really survive on that kind of generation? Not really. And so when you're talking about small micropayments, for small content creators and content creation economy, which is really what we have right now, it's gold. For small for protocols, let's say in blockchain that offer small, very specific services, like, for example, swapping or some sort of trading, very niche stuff, it's also gold. But if you're talking about from like perspective of a large fintech company, for the most part, maybe it's not as game changing because you have a subscription model. You have thousands of people that want that. So I think it's a matter of perspective of really where you're coming from. From the perspective of just businesses, it may be game changing because, again, we're talking about potentially having to pay micropayments to access certain parts of websites. So for businesses, especially smaller businesses, this is great. But again, if you're Amazon, you're doing very well with your subscription model. If you're, so that's kind of where it is. It's all a matter of perspective.
Amazing. And about the Stripe and Visa, all these big companies around, they are winning, so they're probably going to adopt this technology, and there's no change in their business. Or do you think hey, this is the serious threat, and maybe small payment companies can, eat some kind of market share? What do you think about this scenario as well?
Well, Visa is a partner, to my knowledge, of USDC, and USDC is a core contributor to X402. So Visa will win regardless. I mean, the Visa will integrate it, and Visa will grow from it. Doesn't matter which way for X402 will go, it will grow. If we're talking about Stripe, I'm not certain, to be honest. But I do think that it will probably be a good thing for all the fintechs eventually. It will just depend on how they integrate it and into their revenue stream. The bottom line is it will just create an extra revenue stream. It's not like it's going to compete with their existing model, because as I said, as long as they offer enough of a wide service, meaning like a service that a wide array of people need, then their subscription model will never really go away. This will just add an extra layer of what they can offer and the revenue they can get.
Great perspective. So feel free, Griffiths.
I didn't want to butt in. I think that is absolutely on the money, and I think that the bigger picture starts to turn away from, is this a crypto technology, to how does this change the nature of commerce? And I think, well, certainly from my angle, that's where I come from. So I look at X402 and I don't really care, with respect, what goes on in the background. All I care about is the fact that there is a native mechanism that supports micropayments up to the sort of payment for an article level, and that is the game changer, because that is something that we have never really had before. To David's point, the subscription models and everything. I think that's spot on. So if we were looking for a game changer, that I think is absolutely it.
Yeah, and there's another question that Dobrowitsky kind of unlocked in my mind, is around like this small influencers, small KOLs. Do you think is also will lead for a better payments to? I mean, small KOLs will come back, making more money, or do you think that because of X402, we're generally maybe seeing a worse scenario in terms of revenue for this small influencers? What I would like to see your perspective around, like, because with the X402, with this micropayments, maybe the big players will have a reason to pay even less.
Not sure how to answer that. Let me pass it on to one of the other guys, and then let me come back, because I think that's a very interesting question, and I could very easily get myself bogged down in nonsense.
Yeah, we kind of discussed a lot of questions before the show, like, hey, what would be a great question? But as conversation gets rolling, I mean, we're kind of unlocking new thoughts and insights. Yeah, we'll leave to you, Pandey. Do you think influencers will unfortunately receive less with the X402 payments, or do you think it will be a brand new venue to even making more, because faster payments maybe sometimes is more bigger revenue? What do you think about it?
I think it depends on how quickly people are willing to adopt the new system. For example, your KOLs have paid less for reasons, and essentially with X402, they might have a chance to get a better equity in payments. But another problem that comes up is, like, we have to actually start educating people. Like, okay, there is a boom in X402, but eventually when you interact with people, so you will realize that there is a portion of audience which knows what is going on, and there is another portion of audience which came up because they heard about something, and because of this division, essentially what happens is you are left in a sort of confusion whether, if you are going to adopt to this new payment system, is it going to work out, or will it be another way of what we can say, that maybe they will find it irrelevant, or maybe KOLs will have to fight again because the people are finding new fallbacks, so maybe they are finding a new way out of the payment. So I think right now, I'm not sure like how it can affect the KOLs.
Great. And I give it back to you, Dubrovitsky. Do you think we're receiving less or more in terms of content creation? Or do you think, unfortunately, this is going to be an excuse for big corporations like say, hey, now we can change the whole game in terms of payments and you're going to receive even less? What do you think?
Well, yeah, if you look at the, let's say, you take a look at like, let's say influencers in Web3, right? So for example, you have influencers that have actual communities of traders, right? And very often they're paid to basically tell people, oh, here's, you should maybe invest here or there, etc. And very often they get paid per tweet. And you start to wonder, well, are they going to get less per that tweet? And their answer is absolutely not. Because if they have a community of traders around them, their tweet is worth exactly as the amount of people they can bring towards something. And these are not necessarily the big influencers or KOLs. Maybe they have 1,000 people. Maybe they have 2,000. Some of them have 200. But the bottom line is the tweet will be valuable based on the level of community. It doesn't matter that there's X402 because they will charge exactly the custom amount that they want and they will get paid for it because there are people that need that. Where this will be game changing is for more mainstream small level content creators that, let's say, for like I said, you make articles, you make YouTube videos, your YouTube videos are not like in the hundreds of thousands of views, you know. Maybe you run a small outlet. I have a good friend who runs a small outlet, and she, right now does it basically for free for exposure. Well, she'll be able to charge micropayments for those articles now. So for mainstream, let me rephrase this. For thought leaders, this is game changing because you can now charge money for your thoughts, and at 20 cents to 50 cents per article, maybe now you have a revenue model that you didn't have before. For influencers that have a very niche audience, they won't be affected because they'll still be able to charge whatever they want based on the fact that they and only they have that audience. And yeah, and then for, let's say, people that come in with a knowledge gap and work with the big corporations, doesn't matter because there's still a knowledge gap. They're the only ones that know what they're doing. So I think that I really do think that this really creates much more of an opportunity, and it brings more creators into the internet, actually, because it allows people to make money easier rather than this will somehow start to cut into what people are making now. I think that the people that have communities now around whatever it is, whether it's fashion, basketball, or crypto or fintech, they will continue to be paid exactly what they want because they have those communities.
Amazing, great perspective.
Yeah.
So, Krivitz, I give it back to
Yeah.
you.
So again, we look back at the perennial problem, I suppose, of micropayments that we've been playing around with for the last 30 odd years. How do you implement a micropayment? And it looks like this is the solution, and David's given some real good examples of that. So in that respect, I think you can look at it and you can go problem solved. The question, I think the big question is, does that translate to me going down the supermarket and buying my groceries? Because you find a lot of people who look at the mechanism, and the mechanism works. I got no issue with the mechanism. It works, and it works in the situations that we've just been speaking about. But could that be extended and expanded to work in the supermarket shirt environment? And I'm not sure about that. I look at MasterCard, Visa, American Express, Cloudflare jumping in to help the whole process. And I look at it and I wonder what are they seeing? Are they looking to incorporate this as another part of their ecosystem, in the same way that they jumped in with open banking and sort of created some solutions to those conundrums, or are they jumping into it to essentially kill it off? And I'm not sure which way they're likely to go.
Yeah, and one another question that I think you unlock it here very quickly is a stablecoin bubble. All this, new issuers of stablecoin, or do you think we'll have space for everybody? I know that's we're focusing on X402, but would be nice to see your opinion on that.
From my angle, I'm not sure exactly how stablecoin works and how it fits in with the payment environment that I've grown up with. But I have seen articles about stablecoin potentially leading to a boom and bust environment, and I don't particularly understand exactly all the nuances, but I do remain a little bit wary about it. And I'm not sure if that's an answer you want, or whether it makes me sound like I am a complete numpty. But that's where we are. I don't know enough.
Yeah, I think as we're all kind of trying to understand the new mechanisms to payment right now, it's like tons of new information throwing around it, and I think another thing you unlock it alongside the Brovitsky is that now in a scenario that everything is paid to like content video, do you think the ethos of the internet, Pandey, kind of go away? This idea that like me and you and Dubrovitsky and Griffith from all over the world be able to, use free stuff around the internet, and that how it changed our lives. Do you think this changed dramatically? Because with micropayments, like everything maybe will be more charged. What are your thoughts about it?
I think I still have to look into it. Like, we cannot conclude about how drastic the changes can be, because X402 is still in its early stage, and its implementation is still going, and people are making SDKs and all the other sort of stuff. And what will happen in the future regarding micropayments, essentially, like we had already mentioned about content creation, AI agents, and other parts such as articles. All of these payments might be made possible, but I still am not sure that how extensive it might grow into.
Amazing. And I leave to you, Dubrovitsky. Do you think this has changed dramatically, the free internet? Or do you think it's just for some particular cases, the X402?
Well, first off, I'd like to come back to the previous two questions. For the first question that was asked, why is Visa, MasterCard working with X402? The reason they're working with X402 is because they are seeing that the internet is moving towards machine-to-machine economy. And X402 is not just about micropayments, it's also about machines, AI interacting with each other, buying and selling from each other. And how would this work in the real world? Well, if you have an AI assistant and you ask that assistant to buy your groceries, X402 is how you would do it. It would use X402. It would use X402 to potentially integrate with an app or a store app. To enter that store app, it would then use X402 for micropayments to interact with various amenities that app gives you. And so the X402 the micropayments is just the nearest low-hanging fruit. But where it is actually leading is machine-to-machine economy. And so that's why Cloudflare is collaborating with it and building its own stablecoin, which will basically be completely used for these for AI. It's an AI stablecoin. Now, the second question I was asked, what are stablecoins? Stablecoins are internet token money, digital money, that's tethered to a specific currency, and if it's a let's say a safe stablecoin, it's backed one-to-one by either the US dollar, the British pound, the Swiss franc, or it's backed by bank treasuries and stable assets. And so you have, in essence, the mirror image of money and value interacting on the blockchain in the virtual world. Now, stablecoins are great because they basically make it easier to have cross-border payments very quickly. Because when you look at the basic transaction through a bank, I mean, you're usually talking about 7 days or like 4 to 7 days to do a transaction from Thailand to Paris, with the money needing to go through intermediary banks and money sometimes getting lost, which is messy. And if you're looking at a fintech app like Wise, then they use basically national vendors, and so the money goes a little quicker, but you're still waiting for, let's say, 4 to 6 hours for the money to arrive. I can send $5 million from Dubai to London in exactly 20 seconds using stablecoins, and I will pay probably 3 cents. So that is why stablecoins are a big conversation, because they update the financial system. So it's a very simple thing. And so when you have that kind of update and speed mixed with a technology like X402, where the AI is then able to interact with it and you add micropayments, it greatly increases the potential of both the online economy and the global financial economy. It changes it completely. It becomes much more flexible, much more fluid, and all of that. So it's an update. It's a huge update. And then you mentioned the last question, I believe, was, is X402 changing the free internet structure?
Yes.
The X402 is absolutely changing the free internet structure. That's one of the concerns, that if a country, a government, or a corporation at some point decides that they either want to make it more difficult to access certain things, or that they want to make a lot more money than they have before off of certain things, they could just put a bunch of micropayments on it, and that becomes much more difficult for people financially. Because a micropayment, even if it's 5 cents on the dollar or 3 cents on the dollar, it's still money. And so, as I said, the benefits are clearly for small content creators, as well as the AI machine-to-machine economy. That's all there. The negative is that you can take any technology that's developed and make it into basically something that's weaponized or a control system. And so as we get more technologically advanced, whether it's with stablecoins, whether it's with blockchain, whether it's with X402, anything can be taken that's developed in a new way. And it's just the same way that you could take nuclear technology and use it to power the world, or you can take nuclear technology and blow everything up. It's that kind of situation.
Amazing. Yeah, amazing takes. Yeah, and that kind of unlocks a lot of this government rush around the world about tax more people and how micropayments can use for this purpose as well.
Absolutely.
Yeah. Feel free if you have another takes on that. Would love to see as well.
Is this for me? This question?
Yeah. Sorry, 2 Davids generally is more confusing. But Dobrobitsky, you mentioned about this. How I mentioned actually how governments around the world can use that, unfortunately, to tax more, or some other people maybe happily tax more. But what's your take around that? It would be nice to hear you about this. How government unfortunately can.
Well, it's a very simple scenario. Let's say you have a government where it doesn't look politically correct to say you cannot access a website, right? Because anytime you block a website, there's always going to be people that will be saying, they don't want us to see something. So they will try to go around it, and maybe they will try to use a VPN. Well, if you put micropayments onto the website, you could just make the website too expensive to view. It's very simple. It's the same as like selling cigarettes in certain countries. You could basically just say, to view this part of the website, you have to pay $5. To view this part of the website, you have to pay $20. And this paragraph costs you this much. And all of a sudden, nobody really wants to see that website because it's basically financially prohibitive. So X402, it can be used for many different ways, but I can see that it could be absolutely used for something negative. And then also the machine-to-machine economy. Right now, we're having so many problems with subscriptions. You buy a subscription, you cancel it a month later, and somebody still takes the money out or many people can't even keep track of the subscriptions. Well, imagine if you integrate micropayments into AI agent capability and actions. What if an AI agent hallucinates and decides that it needs to buy 4 kilograms of oranges when you are allergic to citrus? You know what I mean? Like that can happen. And AI right now, I use it constantly when I create content and do research. It makes stuff up, like it makes links up, it makes references up, it makes quotes up. You have to put an entire truth protocol in for it to not hallucinate, and even then it makes things up. So these are very legitimate, I think, concerns in terms of here's this new technology coming in. How do we regulate it and make sure that it doesn't go run wild, basically?
Great. Yeah, perfect. I would also add you another question for you. Feel free to ask to answer also that. After that, I can answer make another question for you around the M-Pesa. I know you had a lot of influence there in payment, but feel free to
let's just respond to David and just I think just what one point I would make. So I was referring to low value micropayments and stuff as a sort of in a similar way to machine payments, and I was making the distinction between essentially a low value payment and a high value payment. A low value payment, I guess we sort of can leave to the machines and we don't really care. But David said, buy the AI hallucinates, buy the oranges, and I've got a citrus allergy. And this is where the higher value payments start to become significant in whether or not X402 is the right approach. And that sounded a bit negative. That wasn't meant to sound negative. The thing I was trying to get to is if you are, for example, doing your groceries, you might at some point need to take something back, refund. There are a whole load of things where you might want to reverse the process. At the moment, there are no mechanisms in place, regulatory or whatever, that would allow for refunds and everything else that goes with it to happen. And that means that the consumers don't necessarily have the level of trust in the payment mechanism that would allow them to give the authority to use that payment mechanism to their robot, if you like. And I think one of the things that the likes of the Visas, Mastercards, the American Expresses can do is they have that trust. So whilst they could kill the whole thing, they can also make it work, because as you get to larger and larger payments, you need more and more trust in that payment if you're gonna use it. Mastercard and the cards bring that trust along. And I think they can bring it along for the price, but it then means that the X402 payments, which are inherently cheap, start to become expensive because the trust is expensive, that's the differentiation that I was trying to make. The higher value, the more you need to trust in the payment, and we haven't got that yet.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah, and that's, I think, Dubrovitsky kind of unlocked another great question that I can make to you, is that you had some influence on major payment systems in Africa, right? And Pesa and
Not quite sure how much influence, but I was involved in some of the ideas behind it.
Great, amazing. And one of the things I would like to hear your thoughts is like X402 with these micropayments will make, this kind of maybe products that are too expensive outside third world countries or very poor countries will maybe, in your experience, be more affordable because of the system of micropayments.
That's a very interesting question. My immediate gut feel is no. The whole idea of M-Pesa is that it sort of works in an environment that hasn't got a great deal of technology. There's nothing particularly clever about anything it does. The cleverness comes in the way it's constructed. The agents, the way the accounts are balanced, and the way that financial integrity is maintained, and that is a function of the operation of the service, not a function of the technology. And so, whilst I think that you could bring something, you could theoretically see X402 working in sub-Saharan Africa, I think you'd have to go a long way before you really would see that happening. I don't really think we're there yet.
Great. Yeah, we are going to our last 10 minutes of the show. I think it would be great to bring a little bit more developer properties and perspective here. Pandey, is that, considering your work right now with X402, is that easy to implement to new online products, X402, or you need some kind of very technical staff of backend and front end to make this happen? What is your, I would say, right now experience on that?
So as per my experience, what I faced was that integrating X402 on the API side is quite easy. Essentially, you just have to make a client, and then you have to send back the status 402 and the payment requirements. After that, I think the difficult part will be like the devs who actually know how to get a wallet provider and then get the signature and transaction completed. So I think that's the part where people might have to read a few documentations, because as I was working with Reown AppKit, one part where I was facing difficulty was essentially wrapping the wallet into the interface where the client would be accepting the signature. For example, AppKit provides a different interface for wallet providers, and X402 client accepts a different interface. So because of the difference, you might face a little difficulty. But as I just read the documentation, I think once you get the gist of how it works, it becomes quite easy. After that, I think it's only 4 to 5 steps of what you have to do, and then you actually get the entire micro payment system completed.
Amazing. Yeah, I think companies, it's great to know that, small and big companies can implement this kind of technology that's on hype quickly and fast. So let's try to wrap up here with all conversation. I leave to you, Dubrovitsky, with this last question. What is I would say, the best scenario into 2025, 2026 for X402, and the worst scenario is like saying, hey, unfortunately, this kind of technology did not work out. What company should pay attention to? A great overview would be nice.
Cool. Yeah, I mean, I think we should pay attention to Cloudflare and their net dollar. We need to see how far they get with it and who they collaborate with. Most likely, they will collaborate with Circle's USDC. I think it will be interesting to see any notifications come out from Circle as to how they're also integrating, because that's the other big stablecoin contributor. I also read that Solana is involved as well, so it'd be interesting to see, which public blockchain ecosystems are very strongly working with X402 to try to implement it. Obviously, Coinbase is the parent company, so it would be very great to see like updates from them, and also to see if Base, which is incubated by Coinbase, the public layer 2 blockchain, how it is going to interact with X402. Beyond that, I think they really need to strive to create an extensive public open source library, which I think is exactly what they're doing. And obviously, they're not going to be using some very like maybe expensive languages that you would need very niche programmers to implement. For example, in blockchain, like we have Move, we have Rust. They're not going to be doing that. It's going to be languages it's easy for mainstream developers to pick up. So it's really not a blockchain Web3 build. It's really an internet build. So I think that all of that probably within the next 6 months is really what we should pay attention to. Then beyond that, we need to pay attention to which potentially even bigger players come in. Like, will Amazon come in? Will Google come in? Will they pick this up? Will they contribute to the repo? And will they add code and stuff like that? And then we will need to pay attention to the market, both the traditional market with stocks and also the crypto market. In the crypto market, we'll probably see a slew of protocols as usual try to hype themselves up saying that they're compatible with X402 so they can raise money. And that's just shenanigans. This is the usual stuff. But we need to see if there are real protocols that actually technologically are innovating via X402 and how they're doing it. Because that's where I think the really interesting stuff happens. But in the more institutional side, in the more corporate world, we need to see who gets in. Like pay attention to companies like BlackRock, for example, that has the biggest liquidity globally. Are they? Well, obviously, BlackRock manages the funds of USDC, so they're involved either way as a kind of a third party, but. All of that is very interesting to pay attention to, and I think the next 12 months, depending on who we see that says that they're directly involved and how the repository grows, we'll know exactly how it's all growing.
Amazing. Griffiths, your, I would say, final remarks. I think I loved it. I would say, more pragmatism around the topics, like saying, hey, we need to see how this works out in real life. And would nice to see your I would say, expectations for 2025, 2026 in a good scenario, like the technology working and being successful, and maybe not working, and why.
So I agree with what David said. I couldn't really add anything to that, even if I tried. But I guess the proof of the pudding is is not really going to be visible. If X402 is going to be mainstream, then all the stuff that David has talked about will be going on under the surface. But for consumers like me, you maybe, and everyone down the road, we won't see anything. And Just like we haven't seen anything about what goes on under the hood of the card payment networks for the last 50 years, but we still use them, then the same thing is going to happen. So if it's successful, it will be successful without us seeing it. Now, underneath, we need, as I alluded to earlier, we need the regulation and all the other bits and pieces that allow the trust to come through, because either the payments will work or they won't work. There will be issues. If there are issues that aren't resolved, then it will fail, because people will just not use it. They'd rather use something else. Again, I'm not sure that answers the technology side of the question, but it's really, I think, the only thing we've got. We if it's successful, we won't see it. We will just use it.
Great.
So how will we know?
Yeah, Pandey, Shivansh, I would like to see a little bit of your overview around the technology and the developer perspective. Like, hey, if that works in 2025 to 2026, we'll unlock X, Y, and Z. And if don't, why? It would be great to see your perspective as a developer as well.
I think as the SDK, the research on SDKs increase, I think more people will be able to adopt it quickly. As far as I have worked with X402, it was pretty much easy to handle with, because there is only a single status 402, and then a small debugging, and then they get the entire flow working. And I think as the ecosystem grows, like I've said, that our own ecosystem, a lot of projects are experimenting with X402. Eventually, some use cases will come up. And what I'm expecting is that essentially when one project goes blows up, like that they made a use case for the protocol. I think with that, more devs will start coming in, and then we will see that with one step towards growth, X402 will only keep increasing. But like David had said, that the use of it, the use will be such that you won't be able to exactly notice it. You won't be noticing that X402 is working behind the hood. So essentially, I think as a dev, what we really need is essentially that we need someone who can start educating about this, that how X402 is working and how you can integrate it. Because even me, I think I was introduced to X402 around a few weeks back, and it was quite new to me. So I had to take some time, and then I had to read something about it to understand what it exactly does. And after finding out its use, that's where we came up with the idea that we will integrate it into our project. So I think with that, when uh, more devs will get a successful product working, that hey, we use this product, we had this library, we use this SDK, so people will get interested and essentially they'll start working on it.
Amazing. Yeah, thanks, guys. I want to say thanks to David Griffiths, Shivan Spande, David Dubrovitsky. Was like a great conversation. We, treated, talk about the good stuff, like making more affordable for third world countries or poor countries, more accessible for everybody that maybe don't have too much money in their pocket to access premium content. But in the other side, we tackled some problems, for example, damage to the free internet. You're gonna see the full episode and some clips as well, and another content creation over there, like explaining tutorials and documentaries around the crypto industry. So guys, thanks very much, and I see you next time. Thanks, guys. Bye bye.
Thank you.
Thank you.